From the outside, our marriage was the picture of perfection. Kennedy and I, Eunice, had built what many called the ideal home in the heart of Buckhead, Atlanta. A sprawling estate with tall white columns, immaculately trimmed hedges, and a pair of luxury SUVs parked in the circular driveway. 2 beautiful children, Tyler and Zoe, who attended the best schools in the city. And Kennedy himself. God, he was the man every woman wanted. Tall, caramel-skinned, confident in every stride, with a smile that could melt glaciers. He was rich, too, an investment banker who always seemed to win. Even his best friend Damien once joked, Ken could fall into a ditch and come out with oil on his hands. But perfect homes can have cracks in the foundation. And sometimes, they run so deep you don't see them until the walls start caving in. Hey, you're welcome back to my channel. If you like our stories and similar life infidelity stories, please do what to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this, and if you are a returning subscriber, thanks for returning back to our channel. So let's dive into the gist. I remember the first time I tried to talk to Kennedy about our sex life. We had just come back from a charity gala, and I was still wearing my red off-shoulder gown. He looked good that night, as always, in his custom-fitted tuxedo. I was hopeful, maybe a little wine-drunk, and brave enough to say, "Baby, do you ever think we could, I don't know, explore more in the bedroom?" He chuckled, already loosening his tie. Like what? Like maybe toys. Or new positions. We could even go to a couple's retreat or something. His smile dropped instantly. Eunice, what's wrong with the way we do it now? I swallowed. It just feels routine. I want to feel desired. Excited. Kennedy sighed and turned away. Eunice, I don't have time for all that mess. I work my ass off for this family. You want me to perform like some circus act too? I didn't push. I never did. That night we had sex. The same way we always did. Quick. Mechanical. No eye contact. And when he rolled off me and went to the bathroom, I stared at the ceiling, wondering what exactly I had signed up for 7 years ago. I used to think love was enough. That marriage meant sacrifice, compromise. But something inside me was changing. Or maybe it had been dead for years and was just starting to rot. I started to see the truth in moments. How Kennedy never kissed me unless he was drunk. How he only touched me when he wanted release. How he couldn't meet my eyes afterward. So I confided in my closest friend, Lorna. We'd known each other since college. Wild girls once, now married women with unspoken regrets. You don't have to suffer in silence, she told me one afternoon over coffee at Cafe Intermezzo. If Ken can't meet your needs, maybe you need to look somewhere else. I laughed nervously. You're not serious. She leaned in. I'm not saying go and wreck your marriage. I'm just saying, you're a woman. You have needs. You deserve to feel alive. Her words echoed in my head for weeks. I tried again with Kennedy. Dressed up for him. Left hints. Bought lingerie. Suggested another conversation. But he was always tired. Always distracted. Always talking about his next deal, next client, next trip. Reality slapped me one morning when I looked in the mirror. My skin looked pale. My eyes hollow. I'd become a beautiful ghost in a mansion of silence. I couldn't remember the last time I felt desired. And then Damien. He had always been around. Kennedy's best friend since high school. A software entrepreneur with less polish and more soul. He made jokes at dinners that actually made me laugh. Not the pretend kind, but the real belly-deep kind. He noticed things, my new perfume, when I changed my hair, when I seemed tired. It started innocently. Just late-night texts. Then drinks. Then one night he touched my hand and didn't let go. I see you, Eunice, he said. I always have. I should have walked away. But I didn't. I let him kiss me. And in that kiss I felt more than I had in years. I wish I could say I stopped there. That I felt guilt and confessed. But I didn't. I went back. Again and again. Until it wasn't just sex, it was escape. Damien made me feel like a woman again. Not a trophy or a tired mother, but someone worthy of passion. I told myself lies. That Kennedy didn't care. That I deserved this. That it was just a phase. But deep down, I knew it was the beginning of something that could not be undone. And I had no idea just how much destruction was waiting at the end of it. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through a text message at midnight, through a door left unlocked, through a soft moan you never thought you'd make again. Damien and I continued our affair in the shadows of Atlanta's elite. We met in quiet places, far from Buckhead and the watchful eyes of my world. Sometimes it was his condo near Piedmont Park. Other times it was rented rooms in boutique hotels. It was never the same place twice, but the feeling was always the same: release. There were times I cried after we were done. Guilt curled up next to me like a third lover. But then Damien would run his fingers down my back, whisper how beautiful I was, and remind me why I was there. "You're not wrong for wanting more," he'd say. "You've just been starving in a home full of food you can't eat." And that was exactly it. I was starving. Not just for sex, but for connection, warmth, for someone to look at me like I mattered. Kennedy hadn't looked at me like that in years. With Damien, every kiss was a rebellion. Every touch, a revolt against the cage I had willingly walked into 7 years ago. Still, I tried to keep up appearances. School drop-offs, fundraisers, matching Christmas pajamas. But cracks had formed in my carefully painted mask. Lorna noticed first. "You look different," she said one afternoon as we sipped mimosas by her pool. "Brighter. Is Ken finally taking you seriously?" I smiled but said nothing. She leaned in. "You're seeing someone, aren't you?" I froze. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged. "Because I know that look. And because I told you to go find something more." I didn't answer. But I didn't deny it either. "I'm not judging you, Eunice," she said gently. "Just be careful. The thing about fires, they don't know how to stop once they start burning." She was right. I had started a fire. And I was about to get burned. One Thursday afternoon, while Kennedy was out of town for a conference in Charlotte, Damien and I spent hours tangled up in each other in his condo. Afterwards we lay in bed, sweaty, breathless, limbs intertwined. He kissed my forehead and said, "I think I love you, Eunice." That stopped me cold. Love? I hadn't planned on love. I'd only been searching for fulfillment, not another man's heart. But there it was, hanging in the air between us like the scent of sex and perfume. I sat up, pulling the sheets around me. "Damien, this isn't supposed to be." "I know," he said quickly. "But I can't help it. I've been in love with you since forever. Even when you married Ken." My throat tightened. This wasn't a fling anymore. It was a dangerous, shifting thing. One that had the power to destroy more than just a marriage. I left in a hurry that evening. Drove home with shaky hands and a stomach full of guilt. When I stepped through the door, I found Kennedy sitting on the couch, his conference apparently cut short. "You're home early," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked up from his tablet and smiled, cold, polite, the way you smile at strangers. "Yeah, thought I'd surprise you." I nodded and made my way to the kitchen. My phone buzzed in my purse. A message from Damien. I meant every word. And then I heard it. Kennedy's voice. Calm. Measured. "Who's Damien?" My heart stopped. What? He was holding my phone. He must have taken it from my purse while I was distracted. This message. "Who's Damien?" Panic surged in my chest. "He's just a friend." Kennedy stood. "A friend who says he loves you? A friend who sent you hotel addresses?" I tried to speak, but my throat closed. "I trusted you," he said, voice rising. "I gave you everything, Eunice. And you repay me by sleeping with my best friend." "I tried, Kennedy," I whispered, tears spilling. "I tried to tell you I wasn't happy. You never listened." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. "So you cheated? You destroyed our home because I wasn't exciting enough in bed." I broke then. Everything I had held back, the pain, the frustration, the loneliness, came pouring out. I needed to feel alive. "You made me feel invisible." For a long moment he said nothing. Then quietly, "Get out." I froze. "What?" "I want a divorce." I stared at him, shaking. "Kennedy, please. Think about the kids." "I am thinking about the kids. They deserve to live in truth, not lies." And just like that, my perfect life shattered. Divorce. The word echoed in my head like a church bell at a funeral. Cold. Final. Absolute. After Kennedy found the messages, after he told me to leave, I didn't argue. I packed a small suitcase and walked out into the night, leaving behind our perfectly curated life. The sprawling home, the kids' laughter bouncing down the halls, the pictures on the walls that now felt like lies frozen in frames. Lorna took me in. She didn't ask questions. Just opened the door to her midtown townhouse and let me collapse on her couch. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling while the city buzzed outside. In that darkness, the shame clawed its way in. I had broken everything. I had betrayed my husband. Worse, I had destroyed the safety net of my children's lives. Zoe was only 5. Tyler was 8. Would they understand? Would they blame me? Or worse, would they grow up thinking love was supposed to feel like silence and secrets? The next morning, Kennedy's lawyer sent the papers. Clean. Professional. Cruel. He wasn't asking for a fight. He was demanding surrender. Joint custody with primary placement with him. He was using the affair as leverage. In Georgia, adultery meant consequences. I had handed him the sword, and now he was using it without hesitation. I spent days in Lorna's guest room, staring at the walls, answering only when she forced food or water into my hands. Damien called. Texted. I ignored him. I couldn't talk to the man who set fire to my life, even if I had struck the first match. One evening after Lorna left for a gallery event, I walked down Peachtree alone, ending up in a small bar tucked between a bookstore and a tailor shop. I sat in the dim light with a glass of bourbon, trying to remember who I was before all this. Before the marriage, before the kids, before the loneliness that grew like mold beneath my skin. A woman sat next to me, older, elegant, with silver in her braids and eyes that had seen too much. You look like you've lost everything, she said softly. I laughed bitterly. I did. She took a sip of her drink and nodded. Good. That means you're ready to find what you actually need. Excuse me. She turned to me, her gaze sharp. Sometimes you need to lose the life that was killing you to make space for the one that will save you. I didn't know what to say. But her words stayed with me long after she left. That weekend, I saw my children for the first time since the separation. Kennedy met me in a park in Roswell, his posture rigid, eyes cold. He handed Zoe and Tyler over like they were parcels, not people. Zoe ran into my arms immediately. Tyler hesitated. Are you and Daddy mad at each other? He asked, his voice small. I knelt in front of him. We're not mad, baby. We made some mistakes. Grown-up mistakes. But we both love you and your sister. That will never change. He nodded, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. Crack I had put there. I held them both tight and told myself I would spend the rest of my life trying to heal what I had broken. Later that night, I sat with Lorna, cradling a cup of tea. I don't know who I am anymore, I said. Wife, mother, adulteress. All those labels feel like prisons. She looked at me for a long time, then said, You're Eunice. A woman who woke up in the middle of a life that wasn't hers. That doesn't make you evil. It makes you human. I broke down again. And for the first time in weeks, I let someone hold me without judgment. A few days later, Damien showed up at Lorna's doorstep. I hadn't told him where I was. He must have asked around. I needed to see you, he said. Please, Eunice. Just 5 minutes. I stepped outside, arms folded, eyes wary. I never meant for any of this to happen like this, he said. I loved you. I still do. I shook my head. You loved me in someone else's house. You loved me behind your best friend's back. That's not love. That's desperation. He looked like I'd slapped him. So what now? I don't know, I said honestly. But I need to figure out who I am, without being someone's wife, someone's affair, someone's shame. He nodded slowly. If you ever want something real, I'll be here. But I didn't answer. I just walked back inside and closed the door. Because the truth was, I had to rebuild my life from rubble. And no one could do that for me. 6 months passed. The leaves had begun to fall again in Atlanta, blanketing sidewalks in gold and rust. And the city had started to feel different. Less like a prison and more like a path. I had moved into a modest apartment in Decatur. Nothing fancy, nothing like the marble bathrooms and crystal chandeliers I once called home, but it was mine. Quiet. Honest. A place where I could hear myself think. Divorce had finalized 2 months earlier. Kennedy was swift, thorough, and merciless. He made sure every detail was documented, every asset accounted for. In the end, I walked away with less than I expected, more than I deserved. A reasonable settlement, weekend custody of the kids, and a promise in writing that he'd never speak my name again unless required by law. He kept that promise. The last time I saw him, we exchanged only 2 words at Tyler's school recital. Hello. Goodbye. There was no more anger in his eyes. Only distance. A man who had scrubbed every trace of me from his heart. But in the aftermath of all the ruin, I found something unexpected. Peace. Painful, quiet peace. The kind that follows devastation, like the silence after a storm. It wasn't easy. Therapy became my sanctuary. I sat on a worn leather couch twice a week and pulled my soul apart, piece by piece, laying bare the wounds I had tried to ignore for years. I talked about the sexless nights, the rejection, the moments I questioned my worth because my own husband didn't reach for me. And yes, I talked about Damien too, about how I let desire become escape, how love had blurred into betrayal. I cried so many times in that room, but each tear washed something away. One afternoon, while waiting to pick up Zoe from dance class, I saw Lorna again. She looked radiant, as always, effortlessly glamorous even in jeans and a hoodie. "You're glowing," she said, smiling. "Is this the post-divorce enlightenment phase?" I laughed. "I think it's the post-hell resurrection." We sat on a bench outside the studio, sipping lukewarm coffee from paper cups. "Any updates on Damien?" she asked casually. I shook my head. "He still calls. Sends emails. I haven't replied." She raised an eyebrow. "You really done with him?" I nodded slowly. "He gave me what I needed at the time. But I don't want to live in shadows anymore." "Good," she said. "Because you were always more than someone's secret." I smiled. And I believed it. Later that night, while folding laundry, Zoe wandered into my room with her little arms wrapped around a crumpled drawing. "Mommy," she said, "I made this at school." It was a picture of us, me, her, Tyler. 3 stick figures holding hands under a big yellow sun. She had written my family in big crooked letters. "Where's Daddy?" I asked gently. "He's on the next page," she said, flipping it over. "But this one is just us." I hugged her tight and blinked back tears. Children understand more than we think. They feel things deeply without needing words. And in that moment I realized something important. I hadn't lost my family. I had reshaped it. It looked different, but it was still real. A few weeks later, Damien called again. This time I answered. "Eunice," he said softly, "can we talk?" I hesitated, then agreed to meet in a public cafe downtown. I didn't trust old temptations in private spaces anymore. He looked older, tired, worn in ways I hadn't noticed before. "I never stopped loving you," he said. "I just thought you'd come back eventually." I stirred my tea. "I'm not the same woman you met in the shadows, Damien." He looked away. "I know. And maybe that's what makes me love you more." "Love isn't enough," I said quietly. "Not anymore. I need trust, peace, clarity." He nodded, and for the first time I saw acceptance in his eyes. "I'll always be here if you change your mind," he said. But I knew I wouldn't. When I walked out of that cafe, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Free from Kennedy's cold rejection. Free from Damien's fiery confusion. Free from the version of myself that had settled for scraps. That night, I stood by my window and looked out at the lights of Atlanta blinking like stars on Earth. The city had always been busy, always alive. But for the first time it felt like it was breathing with me. I didn't know what came next. Maybe one day love would find me again. On honest terms, without masks or secrets. Maybe it wouldn't. Either way, I had finally remembered how to live. Not for a man. Not for appearances. But for myself. Have you had experienced similar situation? Please tell us how you handle it in the comments section. And don't forget to hit your notification button so as to get notifications anytime we post our stories. Thank you.